There's no fun up here today for anybody. You can't sleigh ride, you can't ski. You know, you're wasting your time. The roads are pretty bad. The safest thing is to stay home where it's warm.
Right now, some of the biggest mountains in California are getting slammed by a life-threatening, potentially historic blizzard. Conditions are so bad that officials say by now it's too late to get out. I'm Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. And it is looking like this is going to be the biggest snowstorm of the winter for California, and it is packing this massive punch, bringing with it whiteout conditions, icy winds, and risks of avalanches. It is so bad right now that the National Weather Service says the safe travel window in the Sierra Nevada is over, and it's best to just hunker down at this point. And here's why. Near zero visibility on the roads, hurricane-force wind gusts of up to 110 miles an hour in the higher elevations. On the roads, crashes like this flipped tractor trailer shut down Interstate 80, and the risk of avalanches is now listed as high to extreme. The highest peaks could see up to 12 feet of snow. Other areas could see 5 to 10 feet. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns is standing by to track the storm's path over the weekend. But first, let's go to NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson in Tahoe, California. Steve?
Gadi, I would think it's fair to say that things have gone from bad to worse, and this is as expected, as predicted. Of course, the mountain snow that we've been seeing and monitoring has now come down in elevation to where the city levels are, right? So 5,000 to 6,000 feet, expected to see maybe 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 feet of snow over the next few days, and it has started now. I apologize if I can't look you in the eye, Gadi, and the viewers, because it is attacking my face. The scary thing about this, though, is how much of this is supposed to sustain. That is the true power of this storm, that this not only is going to happen now, but maybe for the next 48 to 72 hours, 2 to 4 inches every hour, on the hour, all day long, all night long, all morning long, and then restarted. That means that people are going to have 4 feet of snow on their roofs. What does that mean for travel? Well, a lot of people are predicting that very soon I-80 will actually shut down. That will certainly cut people off from being able to travel entirely. People will be stuck in their communities. So again, the advisory is, if you don't have to be on the road, you absolutely should not be whatsoever. We spoke to a guy that knows best. His name's Kevin Cooper. He is oh, sorry, we don't have him. But we spoke to several residents in this area who tell us that now is not the time to travel. And they know this because of the storm that hit almost at the exact same time last year, causing significant damage, stranding people in their homes. And because of that, they know that now is not the time to do anything but stay home. Gadi?
For those that are staying home, that didn't get out earlier, how do you prepare to hunker down when you're going to be cut off from everything from food for a while, possibly, to the possibility of like medical teams or emergency responders getting to you because of the situation out there on the roads?
Great question, and the answer is you make your shopping cart look crazy. People were buying literally everything they could, chains and fuel and food and water, stocking up like they could possibly, potentially be cut off and lose powder. And look, these are a hardy people here in the Sierras. I mean, they're used to snow. This is not necessarily unusual for them. And so they told me two things in talking to them, that one, we're not scared of the snow, but two, we take it extremely seriously. We don't plan to go anywhere because we know what that means. This is life-threatening stuff. If you get stuck in this, you could die. We're not just hearing that from people who live here or local meteorologists. This is the National Weather Service telling people this. This is very, very serious. It is potentially deadly, and you have to heed the warnings if you're here, but people certainly are doing that. Gadi?
Steve Patterson, thank you so much. And let's turn now to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns with a look at what to expect from this blizzard over the weekend. Hey there, Bill.
Well, good Friday to you, Gadi. And the big storm has already moved in. And the highest of elevations in California, especially along Interstate 80, have seen the most snow. I mean, Donner peaks up to 20 inches. And this was a couple hours ago, so I'm sure we're higher than that, probably over 2 feet at this point. And on top of this, the wind gusts, Palisades Tahoe just had a wind gust over 150 miles per hour at the peak. So there's like no structures to destroy. But it just gives you an idea of the impacts of this storm, especially at the highest of elevations. So when we look at the map, obviously the blue shows you where the snow is, the green is where the rain is, and we're really wringing the moisture out in the Sierra. So that's why we've had all these closures on all the high elevations. A lot of ski resorts are closed down throughout the weekend because they know with the high winds it's just too dangerous. And as the heavy snow builds up, the avalanche threat will increase too. The snow is tapered off a little bit in the northwest, but in the southern Cascades, it'll actually come back as we go throughout the next 24 hours. So here's how we're going to play this out throughout tonight. So the cold front's gone through, and that's going to lower the snow levels. It's also going to make the snow fluffier, so it's going to more efficiently pile up and blow around as the weekend goes on. Saturday afternoon and evening, a very heavy batch of snow is expected. We may get a little bit of break around midday, but then it's really going to snow hard right through Saturday night. By Sunday morning, it relaxes a little bit, but it's still going to be snowing. And so the totals, when we're all said and done, 5 to 10 feet in the Sierra, Cascades 2 to 4 feet, and about 1 to 3 feet in the Wasatch Range of Utah. So widespread in many mountain ranges. Yes, we will get some rain in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. The hills and the mountains will get maybe a ½ inch to an inch of rain. But this is not the last couple of storms. We're not as concerned with getting mudslides and debris flows and things like that. The 5 to 10 feet of snow obviously would be at the highest of elevations. So as far as the other issue, obviously the fires, the grass and the wild and the brush fires in areas of North Texas. We have a very dangerous day setting up on Saturday. Right through the weekend, red flag warnings from South Dakota all the way down here towards Amarillo. And on Saturday, this area is under a critical risk. It's going to be very low humidity, and it's going to be very gusty and warm once again. So this is where that Smokehouse Creek fire is, over 1 million acres, only 15% contained. And if these winds flare it back up, the fire is going to head and cross over into Oklahoma this weekend. So that'll be something to watch as we go throughout the next 24 hours. And Gadi, there's no rain in sight here either. Zero over the next 7 days. No rain at all in this fire zone. So the weekend forecast, damp and dreary on the East Coast. The West Coast, you had that big, huge storm we're dealing with on Sunday. You know, the record highs are nice, Gadi, but with it becomes that fire risk.
And it is a big day for the future of 2 of the many trials Donald Trump is facing. First, let's start in Georgia, where they are still dealing with all the drama over whether or not the Fulton County D.A. hired her boyfriend to prosecute the election interference case. Now, Trump's legal team has been arguing that the two started dating before the trial, and it's all a big conflict of interest. But the D.A. says they started dating after, and she is not on trial here. Trump is. The judge says he'll decide within 2 weeks whether Fani Willis should be removed from the case. And in closing arguments today, Trump's lawyers said that even the appearance of a conflict of interest is enough to disqualify her.
You have to pay attention to what this looks like to the public.
All you have to do is make a finding of fact that you have genuine, legitimate concerns about their credibility, about their truthfulness.
These people, Your Honor, is a systematic misconduct, and they need to go.
Willis's camp says she was being targeted by people who had an axe to grind against her. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra joins us now from Atlanta. Marissa, this case has been going on for about 2 weeks, the case within a case. Can you sum up what we heard today in closing arguments?
I will do my best to summarize all of the legalese. I think the first most important part to mention here is that the judge started today by saying that today was just for the arguments, because for those who've been following this closely, we know that there was evidence that, you know, both sides tried to submit, and the judge says, I may not even need all of that extra evidence. I just want to hear the arguments, and we'll go from there. And so really, for those who've been following this closely, this was just a recap. These were closing arguments. So a lot of this is stuff that we have already heard, if not most of it. So today we heard first from the defense, and the defense really trying to paint a picture of Willis and Wade living this really lavish luxury lifestyle together, and really painting a picture of Willis receiving significant financial benefits from Wade's work. One lawyer arguing to the tune of $9,200 that was unaccounted for. And one other point that has been made, and a lot of back and forth between Judge McAfee and the defense, and frankly the state as well, is a question on whether or not they need to prove an actual conflict of an interest or an appearance of conflict of interest. So the defense saying we only need to prove the appearance of a conflict of interest. But then we heard from the state, who says the exact opposite. They, of course, have said that they need to show, the burden of proof hasn't been met, that they need to show, that the defense needs to show an actual conflict of interest. And it's worth noting, by the way, that both Willis and Wade were in court today. There's a lot of questions on whether we would hear from Willis. We did not. There was only a silent passing of a sticky note between Willis and the attorney that was representing her today. I want to give you a moment to listen to just a small part of what that attorney had to say in today's hearing.
There was zero evidence. Not a single shred of evidence was produced through any of the exhibits or the witness testimony showing how their constitutional rights, their due process rights, were at all affected by the relationship that began in March of 2022.
So on the question of whether or not Willis was receiving financial benefits from Wade's work, it is worth noting that part of the argument and response from the state on exactly that was that Willis has been paying in cash. And again, Gadi, these are things we've heard over the last couple of weeks, but that Willis was paying in cash, and that is something that a credit card statement, which we have already talked about at length, would not show in court. So the big question today, everyone was waiting to see if the judge would make a decision. He did not. Instead, he said that there's a lot of legal issues that need analyzing, and he needs time. So he said he's going to need about 2 weeks. Expect to hear from him in the next 2 weeks. But, Gadi, the next big question is he going to say in the next 2 weeks that he needs more information, that he needs more evidence, or will we have a decision? And as we know, a lot hangs in the balance.
A lot hangs in the balance, and the clock is ticking. Marissa Parra, thanks so much. And turning now to Florida, where Trump's lawyers in the Justice Department are fighting over the start date of a different Trump trial. That's the one about those classified documents. And today, Trump headed to court with his lawyer, arguing it would be unfair to hold the trial before the presidential election in November. Now, the trial is currently set for May 20th, and prosecutors want to do it in July. Trump's lawyers say they would consider August as an alternative, but there's a chance that this all ends up happening in the middle of voting for the 2024 election. The polls are showing a majority of Americans and even 38% of Republicans want to see verdicts in Trump's criminal cases before they head to the polls. NBC News Now legal analyst Angela Sinandella joins us now. Angela, thanks so much for being here. So much of this, I mean, when you zoom out, big picture, trust in the judicial system. And I know the Department of Justice has had this unwritten 60-day rule when it comes to trying to avoid the appearance of messing with something like an election. Can you walk us through how that works?
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is a long-standing policy because they don't want to interfere. They don't want to appear to be political. They don't want to appear to be vindictive. But if the question is, well, why are they doing this now? It's because they can. I mean, look, lawyers were experts at finding loopholes, especially in policies that we ourselves have written. So in this case, what they're saying is that there's never been a ruling about an indictment. So whether or not a charge has been brought is something that the policy is covered, but it's never covered whether or not an indictment that's already been filed will be followed through. But why has there not been a policy on indictment before? Because it's never happened, Gadi. It's never happened, and we've never had so many cases going at the same time, too. Trump's lawyers are arguing they're busy with a lot of their other cases. I mean, part of the argument is, wait, should we just wait and see what the Supreme Court says about immunity? Is there any validity to that? Yeah, that is a big argument. So look, Jack Smith is the federal prosecutor who brought the charges both in Florida and also in D.C. So in D.C., that's where this argument has gone all the way to the Supreme Court about whether or not he has criminal immunity. So if the Supreme Court were to agree with what Trump wants and say presidents always have criminal immunity over any act they did in their official duties as president, that means this entire case would just go away. It's not even a win or a loss. It just disappears. So it would make sense in Florida that he would also bring it up. He's brought it up many times before. But the prosecutors could distinguish it a little bit by saying, look, here, these classified documents that you took, the obstruction of justice, happened after you left the White House, not while you were in the White House. So I think the prosecutors have pushed back pretty successfully with that. When it comes to the Supreme Court decision, if we could see one, I mean, what does the timeline look like on something that monumental? Right. So we know that in April, the Supreme Court is going to hear this on an expedited basis. And then it appears that in June, at the end of their term, is when they will offer some sort of a decision. But look, this judge in Florida does not have to follow the judge in D.C. or even pause this trial at all. That says it looks like she will. She has said that the public has a right to a speedy trial, but that constitutionally doesn't really outweigh the defendant's right to a fair trial. And in his case, he's arguing that he needs more time given all of these trials and given the election. So my sense is that we are going to see a while before this trial starts, but she's not going to just put it off till after the election, Gadi.
Needs more time, and yet we're like 250 some days away from the election.
Right.
Angela Sinandela, thanks so much for being here. And don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. The largest fire in Texas history is still raging on, burning more than 1 million acres. We are taking you inside of a county that has since been evacuated. Plus, we are on hatch watch. 3 bald eagle chicks are going to hatch at any moment in California. We are glued to this live feed to see how it's going. Hey, welcome back. Millions are under alert for strong winds and fires as we head into the weekend. More on that in just a sec. But first, here's some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. We've got this wild rescue caught on camera. This trucker in Kentucky was safely pulled from her semi as it was dangling over the Ohio River. Look at that. The front almost snapping entirely off of the trailer. Rescue crews got her out and she was taken to a nearby hospital. And the woman accused of conspiring to kill Connecticut mother Jennifer Dulos has been found guilty. Michelle Traconis was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. She was dating Dulos' estranged husband at the time of Jennifer's disappearance back in 2019. Jennifer's body still hasn't been found. And Jack Teixeira, the alleged Pentagon leaker, is apparently ready to plead guilty. The DOJ requested a change of a plea hearing for Monday, which could mean Teixeira is going to plead guilty to some charges. He's accused of leaking classified documents while he was an Air National Guardsman. And an upstate New York man was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison after he shot a woman who entered his driveway. You might remember this from last year. Kaylin Gillis's friends pulled into the wrong driveway thinking it was hers. That's when Kevin Monahan shot and killed her. The group was lost in an area with no cell phone service. And both Toyota and Hyundai announced some recalls impacting a bunch of drivers, over 500,000 cars to be exact. Toyota says some of their trucks from 2022 and 2023 in the U.S. have an axle issue that could increase the chance of a crash. And Hyundai issued a recall over truck latches preventing the opening of the trunk from the inside on 2015 and 2016 Elantras. We are keeping a close eye on the threat of wildfires heading into the weekend. NBC's weather unit says winds are fueling fire concerns from South Dakota to Texas. That's 6 million people under alerts through Sunday, and that includes Amarillo in the panhandle of Texas, where wildfires have already burned more than 1 million acres. 2 people have died, and the governor said today as many as 500 buildings have already been destroyed. Guad Venegas is in Hempville County, Texas for us tonight with the latest. Guad, 500 buildings destroyed. I mean, you've been showing us some of those neighborhoods over the week, but that's staggering. At this point, does it look like that number is complete, or are they still counting?
Gadi, it's hard to tell because the area is so large. When you look at the size of the Smokehouse Creek fire, I mean, it goes all the way from the Oklahoma border, and then it goes far, far west into the Texas Panhandle. So we've seen some of the structures, right, like the one behind me and some others in this neighborhood, structures that were completely destroyed. I spoke to a rancher earlier today who said he was on his ranch in his home. He saw the fire come, and he thought it would take longer for the fire to get to his ranch, and then minutes later, the fire was there, and he had to leave. When he returned, everything was destroyed. So that has been the story from a lot of the people that lost their homes. They tell me it's incredible how the fire came through and destroyed everything. All sorts of homes, homes that were made out of metal, brick, wood, so a lot of destruction. Now, it's hard to tell how many structures have been destroyed in the entire area because the damage is still being assessed, but firefighters are also preparing for what's coming next, Gadi, with the weather conditions expected to favor the conditions that create wildfires over the weekend.
Wow, so no break? I mean, what are we talking about in terms of that timeline? Do we look at next week as another windy week?
Right. So what we heard from state fire authorities, Gadi, is that the fire preparedness level went from a 2 to a 3. That was yesterday. That means that they were going to allocate much more resources to this part of Texas. They also announced that by saying that the conditions they expected for the next few weeks would favor wildfires in this part of Texas, right? And when you look at the temperature changes here, we're here 2 days ago, and it was hot and windy. And then the next day, yesterday, it was snowing and raining. We had sleet. Last night it was cold. Today it was hot during the day. It was a little more windy. Now the temperature has dropped. So the temperature changes a lot, and so do the winds. And it's these changes in winds and temperature that create more danger. But overall, the main concern is the vegetation, Gadi. This is a part of Texas with a lot of open fields, a lot of grass, a lot of vegetation that serves as fuel for these fires. Now, we were in the outskirts today, just north of Canadian, where we saw some firefighters working on that containment, but it's quite difficult to get that done because this area is so large. So everything that has not burned has a lot of vegetation that is fuel waiting. So if the temperature rises again, which is expected, and the winds come in over the weekend, that could ignite some of that vegetation again, and then the fire could kick up.
Nothing moves faster than a grass fire. Guad Venegas, thanks so much. And over in New Mexico, for the first time, we are hearing from the other filmmaker who was shot on the movie set of Rust. Joel Souza took the stand today, remembering the exact moment in October of 2021 when that shooting happened that left him hurt and killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins.
It felt like somebody had taken a baseball bat to my shoulder. I remember that distinctly, and sort of stumbling back and shouting. I remember initially thinking, had she been startled by it? And they were sitting her down as a result, and then I saw the blood on her back.
Now, this is day 7 in the trial of Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the film's armorer, where she's facing charges of involuntary manslaughter and evidence tampering. She's accused of failing to do her job as the armorer and preventing live ammunition from ending up on set. And NBC News correspondent Chloe Malas has more from court today.
The criminal trial for Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, the armorer on the set of Rust, where that fatal shooting occurred in 2021 when actor Alec Baldwin was holding that prop gun that fired a live round of ammunition. Well, that criminal trial, it's reached its midway point. And over the last week, we have heard from several individuals, one of them being Dave Halls. He was the first assistant director on the set. He actually took a plea deal for negligence of a firearm, and he cried on that set as he recounted how he was the one who handed the gun to Alec Baldwin, that when Hannah Gutierrez-Reed came over to them for their usual safety check, that he only saw her spin the inside of the gun, and so he only saw about 4 rounds of ammunition that he thought were dummy rounds. And he admitted on the stand during his testimony, that he failed that safety check, and that he should have checked the gun more thoroughly. Now, his testimony, it's sort of moot because he's already accepted a plea deal, so there can't be any further, criminal charges against him. I also want to move on to Joel Souza, who took the stand on Friday. Joel Souza was the director on the set of Rust, and after that live round of ammunition shot Halyna Hutchins, the cinematographer, that same bullet actually went through Halyna Hutchins and into the arm of Joel Souza, into his shoulder. And he talked about how he didn't realize until he got to the hospital that he had been struck by a live round of ammunition, that he still at that point, it wasn't until medical personnel told him, he said that he just couldn't compute, he just couldn't understand how a live round would have made its way to the set. Now, we heard in those, opening arguments, those opening statements from the New Mexico special prosecutor, Jason Lewis, we heard him call Hannah Gutierrez-Reed last week unprofessional, sloppy. Well, we also heard from a couple of the people who worked on the set of Rust who took the stand, and these individuals said that they saw unmanned prop carts where ammunition was laying out, where the weapons were laying out, and where nobody was around, and that is not normal behavior on a film set. We also heard from the on-set EMT, the medic who was first to attend to Helena Hutchins after she had been shot. It was an emotional week, and it's unclear if Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is going to take the stand in her own defense. I personally have spoken to Jason Bowles, her attorney, right before this trial started, and he wouldn't confirm either way. But we have about a week of this trial left, and we did hear from the judge on Friday that she expects this to be handed over to the jury around March 7th. Back to you.
Chloe Malas, thanks so much. And coming up, this one's very cool. We are on Hatch Watch tonight. Animal expert Jeff Corwin is going to join us to talk about these little 3 bald eagle eggs that could hatch at any minute now in Southern California. But first, if you've ever dreamed about being Iron Man, you gotta see this. In Dubai, 7 superheroes to be competed in what's being called the first ever jet suit race. These rocket men flew around obstacles while using the same kind of jet fuel as a Boeing 777, all with that Dubai skyline behind them. There was one crash, though, during that race, but thankfully no one was hurt. And no word on yet if this competition is ever going to make it to the States. But one thing is definitely clear. Tony Stark would be very proud. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back, and here are some of the stories we're watching out in the West. A suspected gunman who opened fire at a dentist office has been arrested in El Cajon, California. Police are saying that they were able to track him down with a citywide camera system that pinpointed his car. 1 person was killed and 2 others were hurt in that shooting. And it's unclear whether the shooting was targeted or if the suspect knew the victims. And a close call for Colombian star Karol G after a small plane that she was in had to make an emergency landing in Los Angeles last night. The plane was headed to El Salvador, and it had to turn around after pilots started reporting smoke in the cockpit. Luckily, no one was hurt, and the FAA is now investigating what went wrong. And a Colorado paramedic has been convicted in the death of Elijah McClain. Peter Chikunak was sentenced to 5 years in prison today. He's one of the 2 paramedics who were found guilty of criminal negligent homicide after injecting McClain with ketamine back in 2019 while he was in custody. The other paramedic, Jeremy Cooper, is expected to be sentenced in July. Guys, buckle up because we are officially on baby eagle watch. High up in the trees in the San Bernardino Mountains, 3 little bald eagle eggs are ready to hatch underneath those parents right there. Right now, thousands of people are watching, looking out for the signs of the pip. That is the first tiny little crack in the hatch. Now, you can't really see the eggs right now. And that's a good thing because it's very, very cold up there. But they're about 3 inches wide. They can sit in the palm of your hand. And I know we are super stoked about those small little chicklets in there. Rare glimpse into the mighty eagle circle of life. But I don't think anyone is more excited than those parents, Jackie and Shadow. The 2 have been taking turns keeping the eggs warm. But like a lot of soon-to-be dads, Shadow seems to be a little bit more fidgety around the kiddo's arrival. And biologist Jeff Corwin joins us now. He's also the host of Ocean Treks with Jeff Corwin. Jeff, how close could we be to this happening, and how does this process work?
It could be in any minute right now when they start to work their way through the leathery layer and that crispy shell on the outside. It takes anywhere between 33 to 36 days for these eggs to complete their incubation process. But it also could take more than a day for those little hatchlings to work their way out. They usually break out a little hole. They'll actually call to their parents. The parents will know that they're coming because they'll be communicating inside that nest. So those parents will be on high watch. They've been waiting for almost 5.5 to 6 weeks for these little babies to come. And it's a lot of work for bald eagles to make incredibly precious little hatchlings like this. And actually, when you think about the history, them being once a critically endangered species on the verge of extinction, it's pretty miraculous.
It's miraculous, and it's happening live. That picture that we're looking at right there is live. Do you think that we're going to see them hatch? Does the eagle get off the eggs, or does it all happen underneath that warm body there?
Well, they'll go back and forth, and they'll inspect that nest and keep an eye on it, because once those hatchlings emerge, they'll be doted on by their parents, but they are potential prey for other birds of prey in that area, other eagles, hawks, owls. But they may push themselves aside, or they may just stay on the hatchlings as they work their way out. But it's really amazing. You know, bald eagles have these incredible talons, Gadi, that they use to rip open their prey. They can easily dishevel and dispatch a large rabbit, a big salmon, but they'll walk around painstakingly on their knuckles, actually turning their talons into their hands or into their feet so they don't damage the shell of their eggs.
Such protective parents. I mean, you've spent a lot of time around bald eagles. I mean, what are these two like as parents?
Well, I am so lucky in my career, you know, long back when I was a brunette, I was working with bald eagles. So I have a great love for these birds. I've had a chance to capture them, put bands in them, been a part of rescues. I've measured hatchlings right before they prepare to fledge from their nest. These are really good parents. It takes a lot of work to become a bald eagle parent. First of all, they're monogamous. So when they mate and come together as a pair, they will do so for the rest of their lives, which could be 50 to 60 years. And it takes a while before bald eagles become mature enough to have a family, to be competitive enough to get a mate. It'll be about 5 years before a bald eagle is mature enough that it actually is fit and strong enough to become a parent. And that's why it takes 5 years for the whiteness to develop in their feathers and their plumage. In fact, we call them bald eagles because I think we thought it was like an old English term for bald, but it's actually an old European word for balt, which means white. And they don't develop that white plumage until about 5 years of age, until they're developed and mature.
We cannot wait to see those little eaglets. Jeff Corwin, thank you so much. Fingers crossed for the new family.
Oh, they're coming.
And tonight in the future of everything, Elon Musk is suing his old buddy Sam Altman for breach of contract. Musk is accusing Altman and OpenAI of going against their original plan to develop AI and keeping it open for the greater good and not for profit. And we're going to get into all the details in just a bit. But where did this tech bromance go wrong? Well, the OpenAI co-founders used to see eye to eye on a lot of the potential of artificial intelligence, both in its dangers and its benefits. Take a listen.
I think the happy vision of the future is sort of humans and AI in a symbiotic relationship, distributed AI where it sort of empowers a lot of different individuals, not this single AI that kind of governs everything that we all do that's, you know, a billion times smarter than any other entity. So I think that's what we should work towards.
I agree with what Sam said. I mean, we are effectively already a human-machine collective symbiote. We're like a giant cyborg.
Now, remember, that interview with CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin was back in 2015. That's like 2 election cycles ago, the same year that OpenAI was established as a nonprofit organization. In 2018, Musk resigned from the company. A year later, OpenAI was restructured into something called a capped for profit, meaning it can generate profits, but with some limits. Now, obviously, that was years before ChatGPT, years before we were talking about OpenAI and AI every single day, and an exclusive multi-billion-dollar deal with Microsoft, not to mention. And that brings us to today and this 46-page lawsuit by Elon Musk basically saying that Altman and OpenAI are violating the company's original purpose. This line right here sums it all up. Quote, OpenAI abandoned its nonprofit mission of developing artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, for the benefit of humanity, end quote. So let's bring in Tim Higgins, CNBC's contributor and reporter at the Wall Street Journal. Hey, Tim. So that was 2015. It is wild to see what they were talking about way back in 2015. But why wait until now? We've been seeing OpenAI develop into what it is today for quite some time. What's the timing here?
Well, one of the big changes we've seen with OpenAI is that relationship with Microsoft. In the last year or so, it's really become clear that that technology that they have developed is really on the cusp of perhaps changing the world. And Elon Musk has been increasingly vocal, unhappy about how that business relationship, or how essentially how OpenAI is organized, how that's changed, and really questioning if that was the correct thing for it to do. And so you have that on one hand. On the other hand, Elon Musk is also out in the world developing AI. He launched last year his own company called XAI, which is really set up to be a rival to OpenAI, a rival to Google's efforts as well. And so, this comes as these companies are competing for users, potential users, talent, to fuel that development, and also the money, the vast amount of money that is going to be needed to kind of create this technology and get it over the line to do the kinds of things that they think are possible.
Now, one of the big elephants in the room here that people on X or Twitter or whatever are talking about is, oh, look, they said artificial general intelligence, as if this is some sort of nod that AGI has been reached. Do you see that at all?
Well, one of the arguments that Elon makes in his case is essentially that because of the nuances of these contracts, that OpenAI has a lot of incentive not to kind of reach the threshold of AGI kind of being a godlike superintelligence, digital superintelligence, and that Microsoft, being this kind of huge investor, has a lot of incentive to pressure that company or pressure OpenAI not to reach that level. And not to get too into the weeds, but OpenAI essentially can kind of define what that is, AGI. So that's one of the nuances here that Elon is kind of arguing. One of the other kind of issues here is, there's a lot of ego tied up in what AGI is going to be and reaching that. So this is kind of the big goal that these guys have. They want to have this technology. They think Elon makes the argument that AGI will help kind of solve humanity's biggest questions. He also warns, though, that it could be very dangerous, very unintentionally dangerous, that we just don't quite know what kind of Pandora's box it will open up.
Or has already been opened up. Tim Higgins, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And still to come, President Biden was hoping for a ceasefire in Gaza next week, but hope for that is dwindling after at least 100 Palestinians were killed while waiting for aid. We've got an update to that when we come back. Hey, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. At least 43 people died in Bangladesh's capital last night after a fire broke out in a popular shopping center. Now, firefighters say it started in a restaurant on the ground floor of the 6-story mall, and dozens of people were trapped, a majority of them unconscious by the time they were rescued. And today in Iran, talk about a crowded political field. 15,000 candidates are facing off for just 290 seats in Iran's elections for parliament. But a lot of voters are actually boycotting this, saying it's rigged and voicing frustration about the current economic crisis and social inequities plaguing the nation. It's the first vote since the massive women's rights protests broke out across the country after the death of Mahsa Amini. And at least 21 million people in Mexico City are suffering from a severe water shortage, with local officials imposing rations across the city as reservoirs are starting to dry up. People there have been going to extreme measures to try to recycle the water they do get, like collecting shower water to use to flush the toilet. And if you could have any musical artist perform at your wedding, who would you choose? Well, if you're India's richest man, your go-to is Rihanna. Billionaire there hired the singer for a massive 3-day bash to celebrate his son's engagement. And she's not the only famous person that guest list. That guest list included people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Ivanka Trump, and Bollywood legend Shah Rukh Khan. And in Russia, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was laid to rest today. At a funeral earlier this morning, thousands of people waded through heavy security just to greet his coffin, with a lot of open cheering and clapping that you see there. And that was right in the middle of Moscow. And no surprise, there were a bunch of arrests. NBC's Keir Simmons has the latest.
In an open casket, the body of Alexei Navalny, President Putin's most famous opponent. His family had struggled to find a church willing to hold the service. But outside, on the streets of Moscow, thousands of his supporters threw flowers as the cortege passed by, each one risking their freedom to be there. They chanted his name, openly calling Putin a murderer, and cried, "We will not forgive you." Despite the heavy presence of Russian riot police and dozens of arrests across the country. Russian prison authorities say Navalny collapsed while taking a walk. His wife, Yulia, says he was poisoned. She didn't attend the funeral over safety concerns. Instead, she posted a social media message. Thank you for 26 years of absolute happiness. I will try to make you proud of me up there. As Navalny's mother left the church, people kissed her and told her thank you for your son. And at the cemetery, she kissed him one last time, helping cover his head. A moment of closure. But as dark fell, Navalny's mother was still there, and so were many thousands of ordinary Russians. Look how united we are, this woman says. If the Kremlin hoped Navalny's death would silence his message, tonight his supporters have replied with one voice. Meanwhile, President Putin's spokesman today told journalists he had nothing to say to the Navalny family.
Keir Simmons, thanks so much. And tonight, President Biden announced that the U.S. will begin airdropping aid into Gaza as the situation there gets even more dire. This comes just one day after Israeli forces fired onto a crowd waiting for aid.
Aid flowing to Gaza is nowhere nearly enough now. It's nowhere nearly enough. Innocent lives are on the line and children's lives are on the line.
Now, Israel has confirmed its forces did, in fact, open fire on the crowd after they say people surrounded the trucks and chaos followed. They say Gazans were killed because of pushing, trampling, and being run over by the trucks. At least 100 people were killed, and Biden and other negotiators are now trying to salvage whatever they can of the ceasefire deal. NBC News' foreign correspondent Josh Letterman has more.
Those delicate negotiations to free some 100 hostages still believed to be alive in the Gaza Strip have been thrown into further uncertainty by this tragic incident yesterday in which, according to Hamas health ministry officials in the Gaza Strip, well over 100 people were killed as aid was being delivered by truck through the Gaza Strip. Now, the circumstances of that incident are still very much in dispute, with Israel claiming that it only opened fire after its troops were being threatened by Palestinians who were seeking aid. The Hamas health officials in Gaza and other Gazan authorities saying that, in fact, it was the Israelis who opened fire first, leading to those significant numbers of deaths. But today, the White House asked about the status of those hostage negotiations, which only a few days ago, President Biden was suggesting could yield a deal as early as Monday. Today, the White House is not putting any such timeline on it. They say they are still optimistic. They think that the talks are making progress, but there have been a lot of raised eyebrows in the region about whether anything could actually come to fruition as early as President Biden had been suggesting, with both Hamas and Israel apparently still quite a ways away from each other on the negotiating positions that they would need to narrow in order to be able to strike a deal. Now, this latest incident with this humanitarian aid convoy in Gaza is really reigniting the conversations about getting enough aid into Gaza. And today, the White House announcing that the United States government will start airdropping aid into the Gaza Strip because not enough is coming in by truck. And President Biden not giving an exact date, but the White House is saying this will start in short order, that it will not just be one airdrop, but multiple airdrops as the U.S. tries to do what it can under very difficult wartime circumstances. And the White House also saying the U.S. is considering maritime routes to deliver humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip by sea.
Josh Letterman, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.